Ah, the Game Boy Advance. That little handheld that defined an entire era of gaming. It may have been small, but its library was massive, packed with classics, creative experiments, and more hidden gems than most consoles could dream of. And tucked away in that sea of cartridges were some truly underrated anime titles, the kind that made long bus rides feel like full-blown adventures. So today, we're taking a nostalgic trip back to the early 2000s to count down the top 10 licensed anime games for the Game Boy Advance. I'm Jessie, this is Entangled Games. Grab your link cable and let's dive right in. 10. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Battle Assault. Battle Assault is a surprisingly fun little fan piece that leans into fast, pick-up-and-play robot brawling rather than deep mechanics. The roster gives you a solid spread of Seed mobile suits, so you quickly get to jump into iconic matchups without a lot of menu fuss. The sprites are expressive for the Game Boy Advance, with clear silhouettes and flashy beam attacks that read well on the small screen. Matches are quick and snappy, making it great for short sessions or handheld best-of-3 duels. Simple inputs mean you can start pulling off cool-looking moves almost immediately, which is perfect if you just want to feel like you're piloting a Gundam without learning a complex fighter. For a Seed fan who grew up in the Game Boy Advance era, it delivers that nostalgic thrill of seeing favorite suits clash in your hands. 9. Naruto Ninja Council. Ninja Council for the Game Boy Advance is a simple 2D side-scrolling action platformer based on the early Naruto anime. You run through short levels, beat up waves of enemies, and face familiar bosses from the show while using basic attacks, ninja tools, and chakra-charged jutsus. Presentation-wise, the game is colorful and recognizable for fans, with clean sprites that capture the cast, but the sound and music are pretty basic for a GBA title and don't stand out. Gameplay is fast but very easy, with short stages that don't demand much skill, and the story is minimal, mostly happening through small dialogue snippets rather than a real narrative. Overall, it's okay fun for a few hours and fine if you're a Naruto fan, but it's basic, short, and forgettable compared to deeper action games on the system, more of a nostalgia pick than a must-play. 8. Yu Yu Hakusho Spirit Detective. Spirit Detective is an action-adventure that tries to follow Yu Yu Hakusho's early Spirit Detective arc, letting you play as Yusuke and friends through battles and quests drawn from the anime. However, critics were very harsh on it. The game earned low scores and was widely regarded as poorly executed. Many reviewers found the combat repetitive and weak, with punch-mashing dominating fights and little tactical depth, while hit detection and controls often felt clunky. The levels can be confusing or empty, with objectives that don't always make much sense, and bosses rarely pose a real challenge. On the plus side, the story does track parts of the anime's early episodes and includes recognizable characters and attacks, which might appeal to die-hard fans. Some mini-games and anime stills add a bit of variety. In short, this is a nostalgia-only title for most people, fun to revisit the Yu Yu Hakusho world, but frustrating in gameplay, visuals, and design compared to better action games on the Game Boy Advance. 7. Shaman King Master of Spirits. Master of Spirits for the Game Boy Advance is a 2D action platformer with Metroidvania vibes, where you play as Yo Asakura using spirits to fight enemies and explore connected areas. It's one of the more ambitious licensed anime games on the system, blending exploration and combat with spirit-based abilities that keep things interesting. Visually, it's pretty solid for the Game Boy Advance, with clear sprites and stages that feel distinct, and the spirit system adds a layer of strategy to battles beyond just swinging a sword. That said, the game isn't perfect. Backtracking and map design can feel tedious at times, and some players find the story and movement a bit basic compared to deeper action titles. Overall, it's a worthwhile pick, especially for fans of the Shaman King anime and Metroidvania-style platformers, offering more depth than many tie-in games of its era, even if it's not quite a classic. 6. Digimon Battle Spirit. Digimon Battle Spirit is a simple 2D fighting game where you pick your favorite Digimon and battle across stages while collecting D-spirits to win rather than depleting an opponent's health bar, a unique twist on the genre. Critically, it received mixed or average reviews. Players and reviewers generally liked its colorful character sprites and basic fighting fun, and some even compared it to a handheld-scaled Smash Bros. Style experience. However, the gameplay is pretty shallow and repetitive, with limited movesets and little depth, and the presentation and sound don't do much to elevate it. In short, it's okay fun for quick, casual battles and nostalgic Digimon fans, but wouldn't likely captivate players looking for a more complex or lasting fighter on the Game Boy Advance. 5. F-Zero GP Legend. Based on the anime series of the same name, F-Zero GP Legend for the Game Boy Advance is a fast-paced, futuristic racing game that delivers classic F-Zero speed and challenge on handheld hardware. Critics generally gave it favorable reviews, praising its tight controls, smooth Mode 7 style visuals, and high sense of velocity, a rare achievement for a GBA racer. It offers multiple modes including Grand Prix, Time Trial, and the Zero Test challenges, plus a decent story mode that lets you race through different characters' arcs. The track design is engaging and varied, and the soundtrack does a solid job of capturing the series' energetic vibe. On the flip side, the story isn't especially deep, and the difficulty curve can be steep for newcomers. Some elements still feel rooted in older Mode 7 mechanics. Overall, it's one of the better racing titles on the Game Boy Advance, especially if you're into high-speed, arcade-style racing and want a portable dose of classic F-Zero action. 4. One Piece. One Piece, often called Shonen Jump's One Piece, is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up action platformer that adapts the East Blue arc of the anime, letting you control Monkey D. Luffy as he fights pirates and grows his crew. Critics generally gave it a positive to average reception with around a mid-70s score, praising its playable combat and faithful anime feel. The visuals are colorful for a Game Boy Advance title, and it captures Luffy's stretchy moves well, and boss fights and level variety keep it engaging. It isn't without flaws. Some reviewers noted rather large levels, limited replay value, and controls that take some getting used to, and once you finish the main quest, there's not much extra to return to. Overall, it's a solid pick for One Piece fans who enjoy classic beat-em-up platforming on Game Boy Advance. It's entertaining and faithful, even if it doesn't revolutionize the genre. 3. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. The Eternal Duelist Soul is one of the first truly faithful Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game adaptations on Game Boy Advance, putting the actual rules and strategy of the trading card game into portable form. You challenge dozens of opponents from the anime, build and tweak decks, open booster packs, and even link up for head-to-head duels. Critically, it was well received, earning generally favorable reviews thanks to how accurately it simulates the trading card game and how fun duels feel once you get into the rhythm. The gameplay loop of deck building and strategic card battles is the highlight, especially for fans who just wanted a solid dueling experience on the GBA. It's not perfect. There's no real story, and the pacing can feel slow or repetitive, particularly as you grind through multiple duels to unlock new cards, and newcomers might miss deeper tutorials. Overall, it's a very solid handheld Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game that captures the core trading card game experience, best suited for fans of strategic dueling rather than action or narrative-driven games. 2. Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure. There was no shortage of good Dragon Ball games on the Game Boy Advance, and to be honest, my personal favorite was Legacy of Goku 2. However, by most metrics, Advanced Adventure is considered to be the best of the bunch. It's a fun and faithful beat-em-up platformer that adapts the classic early Dragon Ball story with colorful graphics, solid controls, and plenty of action. You run through levels based on iconic moments, from the Emperor Pilaf saga to the World Martial Arts Tournament, fighting enemies, collecting power-ups, and facing memorable bosses. The combat is simple but satisfying, with responsive button controls and enough variety in enemy types to keep things engaging. It also includes bonus stages and minigames that break up the pacing nicely, adding extra replay value beyond the main campaign. While not super deep mechanically, it's a great portable Dragon Ball experience for both fans and action game lovers. Its cheerful presentation, faithful adaptation of the source material, and generally strong level design make it one of the better licensed titles on the Game Boy Advance. 1. Astro Boy Omega Factor. Omega Factor is widely regarded as one of the best action beat-em-ups on the Game Boy Advance, blending fast-paced combat, tight controls, and a surprisingly deep homage to Osamu Tezuka's classic robot hero. It earned strong critical praise for its polished gameplay, varied stages, including both side-scrolling and shooter segments, and engaging boss battles that keep things exciting throughout. Visually, the sprites and animations are colorful and expressive for the GBA, and the level design shows real care, even if a few stages can feel repetitive. The story, simple but better than you might expect from a licensed game, ties together familiar characters and gives you reasons to replay levels to unlock alternate endings. Its main drawbacks are short overall length and occasional slowdown when many enemies appear, but these don't overshadow how fun and satisfying the core action feels. Overall, it's a standout action title on the Game Boy Advance, fast, challenging, and packed with personality, and well worth trying even if you're not already an Astro Boy fan. And that wraps up our top 10 licensed anime games for the Game Boy Advance. Which one brought back the most nostalgia for you? Drop your pick in the comments below. I love hearing everyone's favorites. If you enjoyed the trip down Game Boy Advance memory lane, hit that like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next retro rundown. Until next time, I'm Jessie, and you've been watching Entangled Games, where we untangle the best from every era of gaming. Catch you in the next one.